Gotina!
Thank you for actually coming to my presentation today. I thought there was more people coming, but yay, we're doing this anyway. So, my name is Tina Clark, and I'm here to talk about maximising finance for business growth. The world of financing can be very terrifying for some people, and it was to me when I first started about 20 years ago. I walked into Laurentide Financial Services to get a job as an office manager, and actually just went, what, there's brokers or there's people that actually in this world that can help you get a loan. You just don't go to the banks and they say yes or no, and then you walk away and you're done. There's actually a group of people that do that. So it was a couple of years of being an office manager, I got really bored, didn't want to do it, and then I thought, I don't have time to learn this brokerage side. So I got a job on the brokering side and spent the next 10 years learning all about the financing world, learning about how to put a deal together, what it takes to get sort of stuff sorted, and I had a really good mentor, Kevin. And Kevin taught me everything he knew, went off to business school, learned how to read financials, read profit and loss and balance sheets, and I actually find it really, really interesting. I'm one of those nerds that can actually read a balance sheet and profit and loss, and because I know how to put it together, I can pull it apart to do things, just like fruit.
I love you, Dina.
But before I started with financing, I had a very colourful life. I travelled the world as a nanny, living in London and New York, spent 3 months in the back of a safari truck in Africa, worked for underprivileged kids in New York City, and then I entered the financing world and just went, all those skills I learned by travelling the world and doing my own thing, I can actually apply them here. So I have been studying financing. Now my business partner, my business person that taught me all about financing, I became a partner in his business, and then the last couple of months I actually just brought him out, so he's now retired. So when it comes to financing, there are many different products that we can utilise, which people sort of don't know about. Now when we think about financing, we think of the 4 major banks, and that's basically it. I'm here to tell you that we actually deal with about 30 to 40 different lenders at any one time. There's just so many lenders now entering the market because the banks just don't want to give out money. Actually, I'll take that back because someone might be recording it. They do want to give out money, but with lots of parameters around it. So we've got inventory financing. Inventory financing is when you've got a lot of invoices out there in the big wide world. You've got really great clients, you work with corporations, you work with government, but they don't pay. They don't pay quickly, I should say. They do pay, but they don't pay quickly. So you could be up to 90 days or 120 days, you've done the work, your staff still need to get paid. Everyone needs to get paid, you still need to do your marketing, you still need to get your business going. So why not borrow against those invoices that are out the door, get them, borrow against that, use the bank's money, and then your business keeps going, and then you'll eventually get paid through the bank, or you eventually get paid through your vendor, the other way around. When you get paid by the person you invoiced, then you can use money against it. You put that back against the loan. So it's a short-term loan to keep your business running and moving. There's the debtor finance. And I've done it in the wrong mode, so I can't read my own notes. There's inventory finance. So debtor financing, invoice finance. People. Invoice financing is when you want to get paid when your invoices are out the door. Inventory financing is when you actually need to buy stock and goods before you sell them on. So you get money, or you borrow money from the bank to actually buy the goods in the first place. You've worked out what your profit margin is, so you pay back the suppliers on those invoicing. We've got trade financing, which is much the same. If you want to bring in goods from overseas, you can either bring in equipment from overseas. Why not use the bank's money? You've got also overseas suppliers. Why not pay them before the goods arrive in Australia? There's the good old asset finance too, which is you want to buy an asset for your business. Why not finance it? Why not break it down into individual monthly payments? And then so that you can easily budget for your business. And asset finance is actually one of the simplest forms of finance to get, by the way. Business loans. You've got your competitor out there. You want to get rid of them, buy them out. Buy them. So why not actually get money from the bank to buy them out? You can get your financials and their financials and actually add it together and gives you money to buy out your competitor. You can also get a business loan too. If you've actually got some really good staff or other people, you know your business is on this growth phase, why not use the bank's money to help you hire those new people so you can pay them before they actually start making you money for your business. And then we have the good old overdraft, which it's been around for donkey's years and it's been hard to get. I know places now that can actually get this relatively easily. And it's just for those rainy days or those when seasons are tight. We all know in business, there's days when it's really tight or there's months when it's really tight. Then the overdraft can just be that dip in and dip out. Dip in and dip out. If you keep it open, then yes, you're paying interest, but when it's just sitting there doing nothing, you're not paying any interest on it. So it could be one of those things that you just have sitting there off to the side. Recently, I financed this machine for somebody. This machine is actually a spider excavator. Now, I actually don't know what a spider excavator, actually I didn't know what a spider excavator was until this gentleman came along, my client. And there is none available in Australia, as it turns out. Or if they're available in Australia, there are thousands, hundreds and thousands of dollars. So he found one, it was in Switzerland. So not only did we have to raise the money to buy the equipment in the first place, it turns out that we had to actually get it here before it actually left. We had to pay the supplier in Switzerland before it got here. So speaking to the client, he's very excited about his new excavator because this excavator is actually going to help his business. He's going to do the work with 3 men on a shovel. So it's taking out, 5 men on a shovel. It's going to get rid of them. This one excavator is going to save him time and money in his business. So it's actually going to make him money. He already had half the funds because his tax bill wasn't quite due yet. I know Farid's going to tell me after this. But we used his own cash flow, which is his tax money. So we all had a plan when it was going to arrive, when it was going to be paid. So we can use the money that being set aside for the tax office. And then the rest of it we've actually borrowed. We did a business loan to bring the goods here, pay the supplier in Switzerland, get the machine on the boat. So it was only for about a 90-day turnaround when he had the business loan at half the price. When the machine arrived in Australia, we did the financing on an asset finance loan. So we took the payments over 5 years, put the money back into his account to pay off his tax bill, to pay his tax bill, and to pay off the business loan as well. So now we only got one bill. So forms of financing just don't only need to be one form of financing. You can use different forms of financing to make your business grow and do things. Now we also have the matrix, which is in equipment finance. This is being used more and more and more through the financing world. The finance companies have sat down and did their little spreadsheets and did all their bits that they do behind the scenes and worked out that if you've been in business for 2 years and you're GST registered, you're a homeowner, or a renter actually has a 20 to 30% deposit. You're buying a car or a truck or anything with wheels up to the value of roughly 100,000, they're all creeping up on their matrices at around 100,000. You're a good bet, you're a safe bet that you're going to pay the money back. So they've developed this matrix. And not only there's the big 4 banks that we can choose from, there's 20 to 30 lenders that I know can actually get you this money. So you may not fit with this lender, but you may fit with this lender, this lender, this lender. So there's a lender for most things around there. And if you don't fit the matrix, they'll ask you for bank statements. So you hire bank statements these days. Like Farid said in his talk, the financials can take, you can be a year or 2 behind. Now with the state of the economy, we're asking for bank statements because they show the true turnover of your business. And these get analysed in such a way, there's programs out there that does all that, to tell you if you're actually credit worthy or not. So there's just different ways these days. But then again, you might not fit the matrix. It might not fit the matrix. You're buying a piece of equipment that's more than 100,000. Or a CNC machine that doesn't fit anywhere. Or you want to buy a business. These don't fit. So this is when you need to get to your accountant. Farid mentioned that you need to talk to your accountant, you need to know your numbers. And I can't stress that enough. You cannot sit on if you want a business to expand and move, you need to get to your accountant. The tax office is coming down heavily on businesses these days. That's one problem. The other problem is if you want to grow and use somebody else's money, you need to be across your numbers. So you need to sit down with your accountant and go through it all. And as a business owner, you should be knowing this anyway. So someone in my position, I'll say, can you send me your latest financials? At this moment in time, we're October 2023. We're not asking for finalised 2023s yet, but you should have them done anyway, so you know where your business is up to. But 2022s and management accounts for 2023. So I'll sit there and I'll ask a lot of questions. I'll sit there with the financials and I'll have a look at everything, go to your accounts receivable, what's outstanding, what's there, you know, how long are you taking to get paid from your clients, you know, is there anything new that we can help you with? Your accounts payable will tell me, are you got too many suppliers that you haven't paid yet? Are they bigger? Is your accounts payable more than your accounts receivable? Or crap, you've got a cash flow issue. Tell me what's going on here. Do you need money to cover all your suppliers? Your profit and loss, I look at that. And if it's a positive, or no, I look at it going, if it's a positive or a negative. And in negative, we start getting worried. Or we look at the trends as well. So we go back 2 or 3 years and see if it's just a timing phase or it's something that's gone on. The last year, the 2023 year, the government offered a $150,000 rebate on all assets bought. So we're going to see the results of that coming through shortly as well. Yes, it was great, fantastic, but of course it's put a lot of people negative. For us, and in the financing world, that is a non-cash item. So when we're sitting there analysing your balance sheet, your profit and loss, I'll take that back out again. So I'll look at it and go, okay, this is a non-cash item, so I'll take that out and add that back in. Is your profit and loss starting to work? Okay, yes, no. Did you borrow money against that asset? So then I'll have to take that into account. So okay, we'll put this over here. And then, so we're basically sitting there and analysing your financials that you've supplied us. So they actually all do mean something. So this is why I said when you need to be across your figures on your numbers, you really need to sort of suss it out. And then when we call, or a bank calls, or a finance company calls, then you need to be able to answer our questions. And I've found when people are buying a toy, especially like a spider excavator, or any other major asset for their business, the clients will tell me everything they need to know because they actually are so excited. And I'll also quiz somebody. I had a client buying a $500,000 truck. It's his next big purchase. It's actually more expensive than his house. He has his home loan, so he's fiddling around with the numbers, and we sat down and actually did a cash flow with him. I filled in some boxes and said, you go off and do the rest of it. He's so excited, we'll settle this week with his truck. And I said, you're going to move your house, your family into the truck because he's just sold his house too and getting that all organised. But his truck is actually more expensive than his house. There's all different things. What we've also got at the moment is credit score issues. With all these matrices that are coming on board, the credit score is becoming more and more prevalent. But I've actually asked a couple of people, what does this credit score, or how do we actually determine what this credit score actually means, or what is it? And no one can tell, I know what it means. If you're in the 800,000, what do you know, 800 range, you've got an excellent credit score. But we're finding most people sit in the average space, in the good and the orange one down at the bottom. Anything below that, it's really difficult, and getting really difficult to get your financing at all. Even if you're a consumer or your business scoring is a little bit different, but you'll still look at your consumer credit score to figure out when you're a director of a company whether that's actually good or bad as well. Credit scores are determined in many ways. They seem to put if you miss a payment, now the tax office is actually recording on your credit score. So if you've got a payment plan in place, then this can be determined like your credit score. If you start missing the payments, then you could be screwed. I had a client recently, or a client that was actually borrowing a lot of money. His business was expanding. He was buying cars. Every couple of months he'd come back for more cars, more fleet of cars, more cars, more cars. And we managed to use the matrices to get him financing, but of course as he was growing, his financials weren't showing that. They weren't showing that, because we're also a year or so behind, we weren't using bank statements, we were just using the financials. They didn't show us the servicing, which is law, for this client. So we used the different matrices to get him his fleet of vehicles. We ended up doing about $500,000 to $600,000 worth of financing on his cars using the different matrices. But what happened then, we had a credit score issue. Because he was busy borrowing money, it hit his credit score, all the time. So then we had the issue of going, your credit score is so low. So then we actually had to spend time with the client and fleshing out the finance applications and getting his financials and getting cash flows and getting everything together so that his business could grow even more, because his credit, even though his credit score was bad, we could see that the company was growing at such yards. And it's happening more and more in this climate as well. And as these financiers come on, they've got the parameters, they want to use the matrices, they want to use the computers or the statistics that they've got in their offices, that they're all sort of doing more and more as we go into AI and more about the computer saying yes or no. This credit score is becoming an issue. So this is why you need to work with a broker. So actually that's sort of basically it. Not only credit scoring, but this whole credit score, I actually don't understand it myself, because I was just doing a current car with a client. She came to me looking for money, but she had $50,000 of credit card debt. And I was like, how are you paying that? And she goes, oh, monthly. And then I looked at the numbers and I said, she's only paying the minimum payment per month. So her credit score was fine. She wasn't missing any payment, she wasn't doing anything bad. So her credit score was quite high. We managed to get her a car for about 60 or 70 grand, talked her through it. But I found I was becoming a counsellor as well, because I was sitting there and I was telling her, you need to get through rid of these credit cards, you need to do this. What if we work out that you borrowed the full amount, she was putting a deposit in. I was like, can we use that deposit or that trading to pay some of these credit cards down? Can we get rid of these credit cards? One of them I looked at was at 31.5%. The car loan was 7%. So why wouldn't you use the money for the trading to start paying off those credit cards? So she finally took my advice. I said, look, I can't tell you in any way, shape or form. I'm not a financial planner, so I can't give you advice, but this makes sense to me. This makes a lot of sense. So basically, pay off these credit cards and restructure your life. So she's managed to do that. She came to me to say, I want to make more money to pay off the car. And I went, it's a fixed term loan. Why would you do that when you've got these variable rates of 20 to 30% and not pay off this credit card? For me, it just didn't make financial sense regardless of what it was. So we managed to do that. So not only do I counsel people and help you get money, but I also not only do I do that. And I've run out of words. Sorry, that's a bit it, everybody. So it's a lot of questions. If you want to know anything, because I actually know a lot of stuff in my head, I just get really nervous.
I have a question.
Here we go, just hang on.
Tina, you mentioned some of the products earlier on, and lately the market's been a bit softer, like there's low confidence in the market. Australians are really fearful at the moment. What are you seeing come through in terms of the requests for the particular products? Is there a particular product you're seeing a high demand for?
We're seeing a high demand for an overdraft at the moment. People are asking about that, but even equipment finance is starting to dry up as well. There used to be, the last couple of years through COVID, you couldn't get anything. Like you couldn't get your excavators, you couldn't get anything that you needed for your business. They're starting to come through, but the things that have been on order, people don't want them anymore, because the world is sort of slowly, it's drying up out there. So drying up, so we're seeing a lot more assets are being financed, or you can get your hands on assets these days. But the business loan and the overdraft thing, and I'm actually working on a deal at the moment that he did a financing arrangement because he had an agreement with Optus. He was a reseller of Optus or something, and then Woolworths, sorry, it was with Woolworths. But then they changed the payment terms on him. He used to have a 60-day payment term, could run his business, get the money in, everything turn over, and then they just wrote him a letter and said our payment terms have now changed to 120 days. So it's double the amount that he's waiting for that money to come back in. He's got 30 to 40 employees. He's still to do his marketing. He's got to pay his tax. How does he wait for that money for 120 days to come back in? So we're looking at now to try and find the ways that we can help that cash flow as it comes in and out. So it's all about the cash flow and protecting your cash flow and using somebody else's money to do it. Well, that's it. Thank you. Sorry.